With allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll have Taylor Earhart, attorney in my office, read the notice.
The town of Stafford will hold a work session on Wednesday, June 4th, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. This work session will be held at Stafford Town Hall, 8903 Route 273, Stafford, New York. This work session will be a joint meeting with the town board and planning board to discuss the combined study of the socioeconomic impacts of the proposed solar project. The public is welcome to attend and observe.
So we were going to go through the site plan checklist tonight with the planning board, and then the checklist for the town board with regards to the special use permit. And then if we've got all the information that we need, we were going to declare our lead agency and schedule the public hearing. Just to keep this thing moving, get this thing moving, I guess. So with that being said, I would think the planning board might work first with regards to their site plan requirements. I don't know, Justin, you wanted to, I think you looked at it, I know you issued a letter with regards to, you saw some deficiencies?
Yeah, just for one, everybody got a copy of the letter from us by chance? About five pages, about 23 or so comments. But yeah, I mean, there were some, several deficiencies that we noticed in the plans between Project 5 and Project 6. I can go through them individually if you like, or if you guys would just have questions about what we have in there. I don't know what's kind of the best way of kind of going about it. Kind of leave up to you guys to how you want to do it.
Well, maybe you can start off with a discussion on the split of the two different sites, two different applications, but one project.
Yeah, so that was noted a couple different times in it. Is the fact that the projects are being proposed to the town as two separate projects in terms of applications, site plan documents, so on and so forth. But some of the things that we kind of noted within there is that they have a shared access road between the two. If they are being progressed as two separate projects, by way of your code, it should have two separate access points. So that was one of the things that we kind of noticed, and if the fact that they are going to share that one access road, granted, right now the both projects are owned by the same individual. They are in fact two separate properties, two separate tax numbers, so on and so forth. So they're treated as two separate. So the concern is with that access road, then if it ever gets sold to different property owners, now we've got an issue where on 6, I believe, to the south, it doesn't have a dedicated access road. So there needs to be some kind of access agreement of some sort that probably should be in place.
Some type of right-of-way agreement would be suffice.
Correct. So there's that aspect of it, and then two, the fact that, again, two separate projects, two separate properties, and there's a property line that runs through it. There probably should be a fence that kind of goes between the two, or at least, for the boards to consider that. Again, because of the fact two separate properties, two separate projects. If it does get sold, you've got a fence line going right between the two properties. So that was the biggest thing that we noticed as far as the two individual projects kind of progressing as one, but two at the same time. Does that make sense? It's a little bit, it just gets a little bit interesting, the fact that again, they're right next to one another, but they're two separate properties, two separate projects, but aspects of it are being progressed as one.
So, would that call for back-to-back fences? What would your thought as a potential solution then, Justin?
That's a good question, because typically you're not supposed to have a fence right on the property line. It gets really kind of tricky in terms of maintenance and such, so a back-to-back fence, that could be an option, or, you know, there probably exists an opportunity if the town wanted to grant a waiver for having it right on the property line. I mean, that is an option as well.
You guys see the issue?
Yeah,
Tom Ward? Okay.
but the applicant is leasing more property,
Correct.
right? I mean, that's correct, huh? So for the life of the lease, would there be an issue with, or a possibility of,
But again, he brings back the point that they're separate tax ID numbers. One could be sold, and then you would have separate owners.
wouldn't the sale
Can I
incorporate,
speak? I guess what is the format?
You can give me,
Yeah,
Okay.
you can, you're the applicant, so.
Right,
You
the
need your input.
the shared access road, this is the shared, sorry, here's the shared access road. So it's an improvement of an existing, tractor road. This is the entrance to the Genesee Community College, so there's already a good, clear visibility and, good open intersection. So the shared access road would come through there and would go out. We would have, once we have the as-built conditions, we would have the legal description, and we can do an access agreement, and we certainly would be doing an access agreement so that Genesee 6 project can, it's here. Genesee 6 project would have right-of-way from their project to the public road. So I don't have the legal description for it. I could draft it now and put the drawing in as the exhibit and then change it to the legal description once we have the as-built conditions. But, absolutely, Genesee 6 would need to have public right-of-way access. So that would be under contract for the life of the project. And then as far as the fence, it's really hard to see on the drawings, but the fence design sits on the property line. And so that, certainly we're open to if we need 2 separate fences or if we need 1 fence, but each of them are,
that's just one there. That's
this
5.
is 1, right, and then this is 6 on the other side. But the drawing is, there's 1 fence that runs, you can see the fence ends here and here, but it runs on the property line. So it was just 1 course of fencing. But each of the arrays has to be fenced to be in compliance with the electric code. But this having to have a separation, currently it's drawn as 1. So we can make a revision if we have to, but there would need to, I'd have to check with the electrical engineer to make sure it's safe.
So you're saying there's 2 fences now?
No, there's 1 fence designed now, that 1 line of fencing that runs between the 2.
Between 5 and 6?
Right. So that effectively each array is fenced, but there's only 1 course of fencing here.
And your concern goes back to the fact if there's a sale.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see the fence, but that's just, it's a
I
tight
didn't
area,
either.
so.
When you brought up the question, I asked it, because I'm like, I don't see the fence.
Yeah.
And we confirmed that they designed it with the fence running on the property line, and so we just couldn't see it on the drawing.
Okay.
But that was the intent.
Okay, yeah, 'cause the comment was just, didn't see one at all, so I was bringing up the fact of the fence, but with it being on the property line, probably should be, I would think some kind of a legal agreement put in place, the fact that there is a shared fence between the two properties.
Right, so I can either handle that like a legal, as part of the agreement, or I can, if that's not suitable, then I can look into the electrical engineering part that's needed to make sure that they're fenced separately, but it's safe, because I know there's distances that need to be for the ground, so that it's grounded properly.
Okay.
I mean, another way to resolve it would be a merger. And they could merge the two parcels.
Okay.
So that they could sell one separately without a land separation or subdivision. And another date with you.
I'm sorry?
Can you do that under, as part of the NYSERDA program? I thought there was a maximum, of a 5 megawatt system, and if you combine the two, it would be a 10 megawatt system.
I have to look that up, because they have to be, for compliance, you can co-locate, but they have to meet 3 qualifications of completely electrically separate, which they will be. They have to have a separate legal description, and they have to have a separate tax ID. And so we could request the assessor to give us a separate tax ID if we did that. Right now, they have separate tax IDs, and then that they would be electrically separate. So I can review any of those 3 options if there's one that the town has preference with. But
Again, we're just working through it ourselves, so.
right, no, I understand.
Justin, keep going. Good thought-evoking questions.
Well, that's what we wanted to at least bring up to you guys. Let's see. The other one of the, I'll kind of keep along the same lines as the 2 for 1, 1 for 2 kind of thing. Just starting back up my first comment on page 2. It does note in your regulations that that the distance between the different solar energy facilities needs to be noted. So I think a broader plan that shows obviously the distance between these 2 facilities should be shown to satisfy that requirement.
I think that would go back to the same question of the fence. Are you looking for the distance of panels to panels? Are you looking for the distance, I can add to the drawing the distance of the closest panels to the closest panels? Or
Yeah.
are you looking, if it's the fencing, then we would have to answer the question of the fencing in order to show you that distance?
Yeah, I believe that the way that the regulation states is it just asks for the distance between the facilities themselves. So they want to show, so I think the intent is to show, the density and the proximity between
So
the
we can
facilities. So I think it's literally just between, I wouldn't say from fence to fence, but from
panels to panels?
outside edge of panels, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's see, number 2, we mentioned that one as far as the access agreement with the access road. With 3rd comment here was regard to the landscaping plan, which my understanding from talking with Bill a couple times was that there were some revisions that were made to it based on some of the species. Previously, arborvitae was called out as one of the screening elements for the landscaping. It's been changed to, I'll probably butcher the name, but Thuja green giant, something along those lines. And I assume that, that species was chosen for its, quote unquote, deer resistance aspects of it. In the grand scheme of things, I don't really know what plant isn't deer resistant. They're gonna browse on anything and everything. But just wanted to kind of bring that up of that change and just to see if the board was good with that species being used.
So, again, this has to do with the buffer.
Yes.
The visual setback or visual mitigation, and they're suggesting it's a different type of greenery than your regular arborvitae. But does anybody have a picture of the two, Jeff?
They're pretty similar in look. I mean, it is, they are both forms of arborvitaes in the grand scheme of things. And it's intended to be a species that grows fast and will screen heavily. So it's achieving the purpose, definitely.
Yeah, it was selected because it's a fast grower. It's visually, you can see it on the, you can see it on the visuals.
And it's, there's the Thuja green giant, or Thuja green giant, and then a yew species, so there's a lower growing species also. And the green giant is more deer resistant, but it's also still, but there would be an operation and maintenance plan as part of the project that would, if there's dead trees that need to be replaced, then they would be replaced by the next growing season.
And that's for the life of the project.
Correct.
And that would be part of one of the conditions, is that you guys would be replacing the plant growth annually?
We would, we do the inspections annually, and then depending upon when the inspection is and the planting time, we would be planting. It would be planting, though, the size at planting. We wouldn't be planting,
30
10
foot
years.
tall, right.
We'd be planting the smaller tree than, the 7 to 8 feet that are specified, because that's the size that will take better.
Does it delineate how many trees you'll be planting?
L100 has the drawing, it's, sorry, let me make it bigger.
100.
No, it's
I got 114.
114 on Genesee 6 and
Genesee 5 has 368 green giants and 621 Hixie yews. The green giants are 7 to 8 feet, the Hixie yews are 4 feet. They're more of a bush though. And that's the Genesee 5. And then Genesee 6.
do you know any place around here that has any of those planted?
I mean, I don't myself. I can certainly get photos of them.
Oh, you got the photos, so you like.
Nothing better than driving by from somewhere, might be worth a ride. So,
Okay.
there you go.
I mean, if you can find, someplace,
Go to the nursery and,
Bring one in with you.
well, that or
We're just asking.
no, I'm not familiar with the area. I can see, because we do have other projects in the area, so I can ask and see if we have something planted.
That would be good if you could.
Yeah, Genesee 6 has a smaller landscaping, and that is, 114 green giant and 148 Hixa yews.
So when the buffers are planted, obviously the trees are going to grow to whatever, 30 feet high or something at maturity. What happens to the buffers at the end of the solar project when the panels are all removed?
That can be part of the decommissioning, or they can, usually, or my experience has been that sometimes the access road, if the landowner wants to keep the access road, or if the landowner wants to keep the landscaping, then they can stay, or they can be removed. That would be part of the decommissioning plan. The facility itself would be removed, and the ground tilled and returned to agricultural use or prior use, or just reseeded so that it's covered.
And I believe too, in the decommissioning plan that they provided does note that aspect of it, that if anything at decommissioning is desired by the landowner to be retained, they have to request it in writing so that it actually is kept. So if the access road, as it's improved, any of the culvert piping, any of the landscaping, if that's desired to stay, then the landowner has to put that into.
Up front, Justin, or at the end? That's
I think
part of the
any-
decommissioning.
Yeah.
Probably need it up front.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, the question is where is that located in the decommissioning plan?
Correct.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you.
I
So
don't know that
where would
that's
the
in
request come from?
the decommissioning plan, we had some other comments on that, so we were updating that to be more specific
Okay,
and to increase the amount. So those comments, I think those are comments like 18 to 21 or something like that.
yeah, I think, yeah, there's
So
some.
we're updating the decommissioning plan to address those comments
Okay,
and have more for clarification on the value. We can certainly, we can include that the landowner needs to request. I just don't know if, we can include the cost of removal, but if the landowner wants to keep it, then they would, I would think, writing in person, or writing, having written that they would like to have it left.
We would sort of need to know that up front, because we're signing an agreement for 20 years from now, when you decommission, what you're going to do. And if we're going to agree that the road can be left, it needs to be part of that agreement, because 20 years from now, we're going to expect you to comply with the terms of the agreement.
Okay, so I'll clarify that, and when the update for the decommissioning plan that we'll send.
And that probably is double fold, both the trees and the fencing
and the road, yeah.
Okay, I'll make sure that there's a
The cost could all
comment
be
in that.
included in there, and if it's determined at the time that they don't want the trees removed or they don't want the road removed, then, you have more than enough money in the decommissioning bond anyways. That shouldn't be an issue there.
The issue is that this decommissioning agreement, or bond, if you will, it says the level of what the property will be returned to. And that's an agreement between the applicant and the town. If later the landowner wants to say, oh, I'm okay with that, how do we get out of the agreement between the landowner, the town, and the applicant? So I think we need to see it up front, because again, that's problematic. I really think we need to know. The other thing is, obviously, if you're not going to take the road out, you would probably want to bond accordingly. I mean, there won't be that cost of removal.
Right. So I'm gonna update the decommissioning plan, and that needs to have specific road removal, tree removal, fence removal. That needs to be part of it, and then to answer Justin's other comments.
Perfect.
Going back at least to the landscaping plan and the species of trees, besides the species themselves, the other comment that I had was regarding to visual analysis and simulation, which was provided. I think everyone here has a copy of it, so first time I'm seeing it myself, so I don't have much I can kind of say off the top of my head.
No, I apologize. I thought in all documents, I saw the photos and thought that was it, and it wasn't that. So I've added that to the link, so you can look at that at your leisure, and then we thought it would be helpful to bring hard copies tonight, so we brought 15 hard copies. They are double-sided, but the bottom left-hand corner tells you specifically what the image is reflecting.
Just as a comment, if you look around the area, probably one of the weakest things we've seen is how well the buffer zones are executed on prior projects.
I mean, as far as all the orange trees.
Yes. Yes.
You know
So
what I'm talking about. If you drive, and Ed, you probably see it more than anybody else, when you drive in Monroe County, you see all the solar projects that have gone up, and there's all kinds of orange trees. They're dead hues or dead, everything's dead. And you indicated that you are willing to annually review the buffer and make sure that it's growing in accordance with the plans. And I think that's where we take care of that.
There is directly across the street from the landowner's house is directly across the street from the array location, and directly behind their house, because Genesee Community College is there, directly behind their house is a solar facility. So it's, and that, you know, sort of melted into the landscaping. It was not outstanding. And the other thing is that the array is put by the variances, allowing it to be pushed so far back into the property. The road frontage, the array is not taking up the road frontage. And that was pointed out in that Camoin study.
But what we've seen from other projects, not necessarily yours, choice of trees and maintenance of trees is important. And whether it's you or your competitors are failing miserably at it. So
I understand, but
it
as
would
I
be-
said,
I
it's
guess
part,
if you have a project that has the species of trees that you want to put in, and you have photographs of that, that might be rather reassuring to the public.
yeah,
Especially if there are no orange ones.
I will ask when I get back. I'm not that familiar with what we have currently in the area, but I will ask.
As it drives through Monroe County, all the solar arrays are full of orange trees. Orange, just black trees, there's no foliage on them. It's amazing to see.
Same with Genesee County.
I'm overwhelmed by it, I don't know if I see the trees yet. I don't see the trees for the forest.
Do you have any local projects that are already done?
Genesee County.
Well, within like 5 counties, so if anyone wanted to go look at one of your sites to see how they've been established?
I can check with our operations team and get an address, get address.
A couple?
When we have,
Yeah.
we have a portfolio of New York projects. I'm not sure what we have. I guess they're newer, so I'll look for something that's more established, or I can get back to you.
Yeah, even if you give us because according to this, the plans were like 3 to 5 feet trees. I'm assuming they're going to be in a straight line and not alternate planting?
I think.
And if we have a couple of, you've been doing this, I'm assuming for a couple of years, so you have some that have been established and some that are newer. And if you have those projects addresses, someone can actually go look at them and see, here's a brand new one, here's one that's been established for a while.
Looks like they're going
Staggered,
to.
alternate, okay.
Yeah, they're staggered, and then there's also the U in front of the Green Giants.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, any other comments or counter thoughts onto, onto my one comment there as far as landscaping goes? And I'll keep on rolling through them and we can continue talking about it. Number 4, the one portion of your code states that compliance with NEC and the National Electric Code is required. So at the very least, I would suggest a electrical connection plan should be provided as part of the package in terms of, from the inverters to the transformers, for lack of better terms, transformers to the poles and such.
I have I saw that there was not I can provide like a 3-line electrical plan, and both projects have been approved with the utility and the interconnection upgrade costs have been paid.
Okay.
So we have approved interconnection on both projects.
Okay. Yep, yeah, just a full set of all those plans would satisfy that requirement.
Do you I was gonna just provide the 3-line electrical drawing, is that what you're looking for?
As long as that is signed off by a electrical engineer and
It's a
shown
stamped
past-
drawing.
stamped, then yeah. Moving on to number 5, my apologies, as I'm reading my comments, I just stated that this is stated in the maintenance plan, but I didn't give you much reference with what it was. But that's in regards to wind events, and in terms of what happens on the site when a wind event happens, how do the panels kind of compensate for that?
Justin, is that because these are tracking? This is a tracking array,
Yes.
so they're more susceptible to a wind event?
I'm not, I probably kind of defer to you guys on that one, but I would think that anything that's just a giant panel, it acts as a big sail, so it could be like anything could disrupt it, but.
The racking manufacturer has instructions, I just did not have the specific racking manufacturer, so I can get those, and there are instructions on how the panels stow during an event.
Yeah,
But
it is,
a fixed tilt, these are trackers, but
Yeah.
fixed tilt, usually there's not instructions because they're,
Next up.
yeah. When I was first going through them, I was thinking, okay, well, what exactly constitutes a wind event? It is within your guys' code, it does state what constitutes a wind event, miles per hour, so on and so forth. So, I just think in terms of having a complete operations and maintenance plan, that text from your regulations should be lifted and put right into the operation and maintenance plan itself. So that it's noted, you got in one document, again, what do we do to operate it? It's all right here. You don't have to say, oh, it's over here, go over here and get it. Put it all in one document. Item 6, I said pending. Again, my apologies, I don't recall what I put that pending for. I'll have to look back on that one again, just to double check and let you guys know. Number 7, as far as the operations and maintenance plan or maintenance plan, it is noted in there in terms of the property maintenance and housekeeping. It says observation and review of the property and planting buffer to include tree, vegetation, and grass trimming to prevent obstruction of the solar arrays. I think it would be good to kind of expand out a little bit further to also include, what I have it here in bold, maintain access and egress of the site, maintain adequate coverage of the pollinator mix, and maintain screening requirements. So back again to the point that was made in terms of making sure that the trees are still alive, they're still doing what they're supposed to be doing, and that the pollinator mix that's spread throughout the site is actually taking hold and, again, doing its job too. So I think just being clear and adding that would be beneficial for you guys.
so the language that you have there
Yes.
is what you want me to include in some wording in the O&M plan.
Correct. Also making note that all maintenance noted should occur during normal business hours. Just be a good neighbor, don't want anything happening at 6 o'clock in the morning, you know. That would be preferred, and, you know, not on the weekends or something. Item C on page 3 of 5, no use of herbicides, or if cases do arise that such is needed, that there should be procedures that should be noted that would take place for their approved use. So they would have to notify the town that based on certain conditions, herbicides will need to be used, and you guys would give approval for that to happen. Because as it stands right now, no herbicides would be used, which is what you would prefer. So if there's deviation from that, the town would have to be notified accordingly. Item D, contact procedures for emergency situation or observed unscheduled issues. There's nothing in there that notes basically who should be contacted first. I know that there is a person that's noted on there from Catalyze and such, but you know, the order of who should be contacted first, and second, third, so on and so forth should be included, as well as those contractors that would be used for the operations and maintenance. It'd just be good for the town to have all that information on.
So, yeah, a list of emergency contacts and procedures or, you know,
Correct.
and you want that separate or in the O&M plan?
I would think that would make sense to have that in the operations and maintenance plan. So anything as far as emergency procedures, contacts, and everything that deals with operation of it should be included within there.
Okay.
You guys have any questions or thoughts? Terry, you're being quiet.
I'm listening.
Okay.
Well, and actually this kind of goes to your point. The comment was that might change over time if different contractors are used, so on and so forth. And the item D is the O&M plan shall be in place for the life of the project until decommissioned. Any changes to the plan shall be provided to and approved by the town. So if there is a change in ownership, a change in the contractor who's doing the operations and maintenance of the grounds, any of those changes need to be passed along to the town so they have an up-to-date record.
So you just need, the town needs to be notified of those changes?
I would think annually you would let us know who the people are.
Yeah. So I notified and given updated documents for whatever that new contact would be. All right.
So change O&M, so annually confirm any changes in the contacts or O&M in the O&M plan.
Correct. All right, moving on to item 8, in terms of the use of a agriculture environmental monitor. This is in regards to the New York State Department of Ag and Markets. They have a set of guidelines for construction mitigation, as well as post-construction and remediation for solar energy projects. And they have a certain level of criteria and standards for these projects, just to make sure that the soils are retained, that post decommissioning, that it's actually remediated appropriately, so on and so forth. So I didn't put the exact specifics in there, but I did reference the actual document, so I would suggest
Right.
I would honestly suggest appending to the O&M manual those guidelines, because they're pretty specific and they're pretty thorough.
Our environmental team was using that document as a guidance.
Okay. In relation to that monitor, going into the decommissioning costs, just wanted to verify or ask the question if the costs do include the use of a agricultural environmental monitor as part of it.
I would think yes, they would need to include that, because that's the purpose of those guidelines, right? Is more specifically talking to the decommissioning part. But I can make sure in the update to the decommissioning plan that we just include a note saying it includes the cost of the environmental monitoring.
Yep.
Is there an environmental agricultural monitor during construction phase?
There's someone that's assigned to it. It's a specific set of guidelines. It's October 18, 2019, right?
Correct.
You have the title, but those are very clear on what is done during construction and during decommission.
And who compensates that person?
The environmental monitor?
Yes.
It can be a third party, or it can be, usually it's either hired by the EPC or it's hired by it can be a third party, but it's a person with a specific, with qualifications to understand what they're talking about in that guideline. They don't have to be on site, they're consulted or.
If somebody noticed something like that, would that be posted on a board someplace, a job board or something? You know, if the community being vigilant and watching this.
Well, they just as they do the SWIP inspections, the stormwater inspections, they do the environmental monitoring inspections. It's handled through that process. So like you do stormwater inspections, and there's instructions on how you do that during construction. And then any permanent stormwater features. I don't know of the specific permanent stormwater features for this, but the environmental monitor is someone that is assigned, and they're just like the stormwater inspector.
But they're not assigned project specific, it's maybe area specific by the DEC?
No, it's someone that we would hire.
Okay.
The project company bears the cost of that, either through us hiring a third party or through the contractor hiring someone. Or maybe it's someone on the contractor's staff that.
We're not
In
using our.
general, SWIP
Yeah.
and EM inspections run concurrently together. So when you're doing the weekly SWIP inspections, you'll be doing the EM inspections as well. So.
Because we approve this project. Does it get built in accordance with the approval? Is there someone looking at it, the plans that we approve when it's being constructed? And I think that's some of the problems they're having in Byron.
Right, that's what go ahead, Barry.
Oh, I was just gonna say yes, that during construction, that is when someone will be looking at that.
And who does that person answer to?
Generally, a report is generated and provided to the client. It would be catalyzed during that time, and then I'm sure as needed, it can be provided elsewhere.
Right, it's my experience is it's the same process as the stormwater
It is.
inspection report. So
They're very
you get
similar.
a weekly report, and then that report calls out if there's any issues,
Yes.
and then those issues are, they're supposed to be addressed. So that report goes to our contractor, and it goes to our construction manager, and then they address those.
And the environmental personnel that's assigned to that will not allow the contractor, like Catalyze, to close on the project until we deem it sufficient.
Just, we never get those notices, even on a monthly basis?
I don't,
I've only ever
Stormwater
provided that to the
inspections-
client.
The stormwater inspections are weekly,
Yes.
so there would be weekly inspection reports that would come to somebody at the town.
The EMs could be provided
The
as well.
environmental would be something similar to that.
Yes.
What about the regular inspection of installation of the support posts, installation of the underground electric conduit.
I mean, that's
installation of the
handled
access
between-
road, stuff like that. I mean, is there, who's gonna be out there inspecting and watching the contractor to make sure that it's built according to what the approved plans
Well,
say?
the contractor hires their staff. They, they're bound by our contract. Our construction manager is managing that. And then, throughout construction, there's different milestones, but at the end of construction, a professional engineer signs off, on the plan that say that the project has been built to the plans. So a professional engineer, a third-party professional engineer, reviews the construction and what's been done according to the plans.
So we don't find out until the end that,
No, they go through it, I am not on the construction side, but we go through as the project is constructed, there's communication constantly back and forth between our staff, our engineer of record, our, the contractors.
We're probably not gonna take draws, so just like my field work, we're not gonna pay them until the engineer signed off on
Right, and
their
there's,
inspection.
right, and there's
Yeah.
constant communication between them.
And the engineers are licensed, so
well, when
if they're
you're
not doing
building-
their job, they could get their license pulled.
If you're building a house, the code enforcement officer for the town does periodic inspections to see that the
Foundations.
foundation is done right.
Right.
The framing is done right, the electrical is done right, and all that kind of stuff. You have an NEC inspector to do that.
Well, yeah, there's an electrical, there's a third-party electrical inspector that gives the electrical certificate. And through the building permit process, I would think that there's the code enforcement officer is identifying when the inspections need to be done through that.
Except there's no building.
No, but a building permit is issued to construct the project.
Foundation.
So I guess what you're saying is he'd have the right to go out.
I'm
and
saying,
inspect
I don't
it.
know what the answer is as far as the
I guess
timing.
that's
The
what
code
we're finding
enforcement
that.
officer
Could we
determines that.
get your reports on a monthly basis to run in front, to the code officer so that he can run them back to the planning board, just to say that it's being built in accordance with plans?
I have to assume that there are different phases of this building of this.
Correct.
So after each phase, there's going to be somebody in there inspecting that phase before you go to the next one.
Yes, but I'm not, I guess what you're asking for is, some type of inspection report provided back to the code enforcement officer during the time of construction. And I'm saying that there's stormwater inspection, so that's inspecting the civil site controls. And then the code enforcement officer, through the building permit process, has the ability to set times of inspection. Like usually there's boxes on the building permit that say when there needs to be inspection. I do not know myself, or I don't know, like, to the town board or the planning board. That would be something that I need to get a construction manager or get input from the code enforcement officer on when he wants to have that inspection.
Can I ask a question? You're
Sure.
saying the third party will be doing the monitoring, correct?
The third party, we
Yeah,
have a
so
person
they-
that does the stormwater inspections
Yep.
and the environmental monitoring.
Correct.
And then,
Are they only notifying you and only you, especially if there's an issue? Or will they be giving these reports to the lead agent of this project for the town?
So generally, if there are deficiencies that say the contractor is grossly neglecting and we feel like it's affecting the environment, then we would seek outside, potentially the DEC, but generally we try to work with them to get it done So that way you're avoiding that issue.
Because,
I'm not asking if it's not going to be taken care of.
Yeah.
I'm asking, are you going to be notifying?
Are we gonna be,
Whoever is the
are we
lead.
gonna be part of the project?
Yes, are we going to be aware of what these reports are? Are we going to be aware when an issue comes up and the resolution of any issue in a timely manner, not after it's done?
So I would need to speak with my construction manager to find out the process that is handled with the storm, you know, the SWIP and environmental monitor, because those are all completed in compliance with the DEC, New York State DEC regulations. And I don't want to say that, you know, I can provide them on this cadence until I speak to the construction manager who is responsible for supplying those.
Another question though, you haven't started discussing this with our code enforcement, our building code enforcement officer as to what he's gonna want for inspections?
No, because I haven't.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
We're just asking.
yeah, because I wouldn't start those conversations until I had the site
permit.
plan and special use
I
permit.
got you. I understand the chicken and the egg that comes first, and it's a question to us is, you know, how can we make sure that the project's being built and inspected in accordance with your plans?
My experience is that the code enforcement officer usually has clear instructions. I just am not the person that has them, so I can ask and get that information and get it back to you.
That'd be great. I mean, if there's reports out there being generated, if they can be remitted to the planning board monthly, we would review them in our regular meeting and, you know, be insightful. That's, I think I thought. We're not saying we want every notice, but we'd like a monthly update as to where the project is, and where, if there's problems, if there aren't problems.
Well, you can tell I want to say something.
What's that?
Can you tell I want to say something?
Yeah, you smiled and you were ready to move, you're ready to jump.
My misunderstanding, our code officer is the one who needs to set these inspections. Right?
I do believe so.
So this conversation feels kind of circular, like,
He's not here.
so it should be us, you know, and that's where the information comes in.
Yeah.
I think it can be.
That's where I'm struggling, because
Yeah.
usually when
You're
we get
telling-
the building
we're telling you.
inspection, it comes
Yeah.
with the instructions on, you need to contact us on these milestones and provide
Exactly.
this information
So we're
back.
asking you a question that I think is a question for ourselves.
Yeah, and I think with that, it can be stipulated whether or not they're daily inspections, weekly inspections, and then progress reports and how they're provided to the town. I think all that can kind of, all that would end up kind of coming out of the building permit process and kind of
Yeah.
stipulated in there. Getting back to comments and as far as, you know, getting back to the decommission costs, does the estimate include trucking and disposal costs as well as labor? There's a line in there that talks about shipping costs, but is that shipping it off-site? Is that?
I understood your question then.
Yeah.
Because I'm new to the project also, so I saw the decommissioning plan and I said, this is not clear.
Yeah.
And so I've asked for an updated one that also addresses that comment of, you know, shipping, and it just, the decommissioning plan that was provided didn't provide enough detail.
Okay. Yeah.
So I understand what you're asking and I will
Okay.
provide it.
All right. For the sake of the boards, the question basically pertains that, you know, wanting to make sure that there's enough detail, there's enough cost in there to fully decommission the project. Obviously, the goal is that if and when it does get decommissioned, that Catalyze would be the ones handling it. But in a worst case scenario, if they're not and it's all the town to do you have enough detail, money, everything to cover everything 100% that you guys don't have to pay a dime? That's what that decommissioning bond should be, that it covers everything, that there should be nothing that comes out of the town's pocket. So that includes yes, taking down the panels and shipping them away, but disposing them. Where? Where do they get disposed to? Is there a cost for that disposal charge? Is it a recycling fee? Is it a tipping charge? Are they shipped someplace local? Do they have to be shipped out of state? So granted, the whole aspect of panel recycling is still kind of in its infancy because I think just nationwide, we haven't gotten to the point with any of these projects where they've been decommissioned. So I think, again, that recycling aspect is still kind of in its infancy. There may be a few that are around Midwest, last time I checked. But that's always a moving target. So again, having that idea of where is it going to get shipped to, how much is it going to cost, that all needs to be in here. As well as costs for any post-remediation testing, because that is noted within your regulations. Although, as a note in here, it's indicated to be paid from the escrow account, which doesn't really make sense having it come from there, because the escrow pays for all this work ahead of time. Decommissioning is what covers it at the end, so that post-remediation testing should come out of the decommission costs, and so it should be accounted for in there as well. But that just kind of expands on that. But
Just question time-wise, to revise this decommissioning plan or more, giving it more detail, what do you think it's going to take you?
2 weeks?
2 weeks should be enough time, that's not gonna have a lot of time.
And then also moving related to the decommission costs, any type of hazardous materials anticipated with the facility, and if there are, what's the anticipated disposal methods? Again, costs associated with that. That should be noted and accounted for. Comment on number 11 was in regards to visual site assessment. We kind of already talked about that one. Again, with the decommission bond, comment number 12, your regulations note the decommission bond to be 150% of the cost, not 125%, unless the town board approves for a lower amount. So I guess it kicks back to the town board if they're okay with 125. Just has to be noted as such, but it should be 150 per your regulations. Let's see.
So when you come back next month with the decommissioning plan, will it have numbers in there as well? And then will you also provide like a COLA or some type of adjustment to it over the term of the life of the project?
So something like a
Cost of
inflation
Yeah.
escalator. Sorry, thank you.
Right.
We're coming out. I believe the decommission plan right now does have one in there, 2 or 3%.
I thought I saw that it had a 20% contingency. I didn't see an escalator table. It was just one small table. So, and I didn't see, I saw the 150% in the code, but I didn't see an escalator in the code.
I think it was, I believe the code did note, again, don't quote me, I can't think off the top of my head, but it was like 2 or 3%. And I believe in the decommissioning plan, it did say that it would include that as part of the 5-year review. There wasn't a table that showed what that escalator would be over
Usually I have,
the
like,
life
I'll
of
go through all the costs,
it.
and then this is the cost, and this is the 20% contingency, and then, so that's the total, and then this is 150% of that total, and so that's what our bond is. And
Yeah.
then, I have to check and see what the code says for if there's an escalator, but then I'll include another table that then explains,
Okay.
what it is.
At each of those year marks, if it's every 5 years or 3 years, I I believe the code says every 5 years that has to be re-evaluated, so.
Right, that's what I thought it said.
Yeah.
So I think that's what the note was, but there wasn't really any instruction other than, you know, so in year 5 or year 6, then we need to provide to the code enforcement officer, okay, we've reevaluated, these amounts are still valid, or, you know, I'm not sure what the instruction was. If
Yeah.
there are other municipalities where it says, you know, a specific escalator, and then I can include the table. Usually what I try and do though, then, we try and have it like either be the full amount or like some, we try and not have human error
Yeah,
in that. So, you know, trying to sort of establish instructions now on how to increase it so that, because, you know, none of us are going to be here doing this in 30 years paying attention to it. So we want to make sure we include clear instructions to our operations staff on, you know, do this at this time.
yes. Yeah, and in all my comments, I did try to reference all those different
Yes,
aspects of the
I
code. so-
loved that you put the code reference. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Well, it makes it more clear for you guys, and it also is clear for the town, so that you know where this is exactly coming from, and it's not just, you know, my thoughts of like, oh, this would be a good idea. No, your code specifically says this in this section, so, you know, we try to be as clear as we possibly can in that one. I'm just trying to see real quick if I can find it real fast, because I believe it did say what that was. 150%. Yeah. Yeah, maybe it did not say that, but typically it goes in line with inflation.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, and towns have all different, so
I don't see a,
an
an
escalator.
escalator clause.
Okay.
It was either part 7, 143 part 7, or 143 part 8. There was 2 different locations that had it, but I can't remember which letter it was.
Bertie says anticipated life, estimated decommissioning costs, including contingency costs of at least 20% in current dollars. Verifiable means of determining the decommissioning plan needs to be activated due to the cessation of use. In order to plan the disposal of all hazards contained in the SEF, method for ensuring funds will be made available. I don't see a specific escalation clause.
Okay, I'll talk with our engineer that's preparing the plan to have some note, comment, you know, calculation. We'll figure some response out to that.
All right. Let's see, my other comment, in regards to the Speedies permit, right now, you guys do have one that's contained within the SWIP. It's Appendix F. Within it, it does note an expiration date of January 28th, 2025.
Right, we haven't filed the Speedies permit yet.
Okay.
Because you need to do that with the full SWIP with the set for building permit. So when that set is complete and that SWIP is complete, then, and you file the Speedies permit when, you know, right before you mobilize.
Yeah.
But the regulations, I think that January 25 was that general permit, and so that now there's a new general permit number, and so the project will be in compliance with that new general permit number, because we didn't meet that. We didn't meet the site plan approval or special use approval before January of 25.
Correct.
So now the project will comply with the new regulations.
Okay. Just want to bring that to the attention of the boards, that's all. It's in there, but just, it will need to be updated and signed.
Yes.
Okay.
But it wouldn't be, I wouldn't give you the signed one until I'm doing the building permit.
Correct, so it could be a condition upon approval that is provided to the town for their records.
Yeah, no, that's usually part of the building permit process.
Okay.
Because you need to do the final part of it, you need your actual contractors to sign it.
Yeah, because you need their insurance and
Right,
everything else.
right.
Yep. Okay. Let's see, comment 14 was in regards to the visual simulations. As, you know, as you guys had provided them, I will take a closer look at those and see how they are. I do agree with the comment that was brought up, is that if there are any real-world examples of any of your projects with the different species that have been used and such, that would be preferred to, I think, show the board how it actually does look.
Yeah, and I'll check with my operations folks on that, I have that note.
Okay. As far as the gate at the access road, does that include a emergency Knox box or anything else for?
It's not on the drawings now, but it will be, and
Okay.
yes, it would include the Knox box.
Okay.
Does the fire department, in town process, does the fire department review during the special use permit timeframe, or do they review it at the building permit timeframe?
This is the first one we've done. I would think you'd want it probably a special use permit, because you want it as soon as possible, you know, so you can identify what the concerns are.
So,
I would reach out to the fire department now, just so they have an idea what's going on.
Yeah, because if they have any specific requirements in terms of the access road, in terms of size, turnaround, and again, access at that gate, you know, whatever those things that need to be stipulated on the plans should be done so.
Yeah, it should be a letter. We should have that, you know, at the public hearing, to know that, you know, they've reviewed it. And, you know, think about, you know, probably the most expensive apparatus we own is our fire trucks. And we're gonna dispatch them to a road that, you know, it needs to be built to certain specifications to accommodate trucks.
no, I understand, usually that's part of the, you know, the civil part has like the turning radius and the roads are built to the specifications of the utility, so they have specifications also. You know, it has to be wide, you know, it has to have a turnaround, you know, the specific turning radius, so.
Yeah.
And these sites are reasonably flat, so.
I want to say $500,000 or $600,000 is the cost of a fire truck, but I may be corrected, right?
Yeah, a lot more than that.
More than that.
Double that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we'd be happy with that.
Yeah.
So again, like, it's probably important that the roads are built to the standard that they're acceptable.
And I think kind of along those same lines with my one comment in terms of the, any type of a emergency action and response plan, that should be provided as part of the O&M plan. You know, we kind of talked about who to contact when and such, but what does the fire department have to be aware of, where the cutoff switch is, how do we get to it, those sorts of things, which some of it, as far as the cutoff switches, probably would be included within that, the wire line diagram that we talked about at the beginning. But again, all those things should be noted so that the fire department knows what to do when they approach on site.
Yeah, at the end, after construction or when construction is almost done, usually there's a contact to the fire department. You know, they obviously contact earlier, but after construction, there's a contact, and then, you know, either some sort of a training or communication, and there's specific signage on the fences that show, and there's like a map on that signage that shows where the disconnect is. A lot of that is the electrical, you know, compliance.
Yeah. Yep.
How long do you think it'll take you to interface with the fire department and be able to put that together?
That I'm not sure of. One, I'll have to contact the town clerk to get, or, get the who I need to
Okay.
contact. And I'm assuming it's a volunteer fire department probably, so usually it's their response varies drastically on, because obviously they're volunteer, but.
They've got jobs and families and everything else.
Right, so, it could be quickly, it could, I could reach out to them quickly,
Okay.
but I can't give you a timeline of when I would
Okay.
have a letter back from them.
Oh, okay, moving on then, item number 17, just a comment that, that it would be preferred or recommended to at least have the seed mix that's being proposed, that pollinator seed mix, just be reviewed. The recommendation that we provided in here by the local soil and water conservation district, just to make sure that the mix that's being used has enough to actually call it an actual pollinator mix. That it's not majority grasses and then a few flowers or something, because the intent behind the pollinator mix is to be almost a mitigating factor for taking the land out of agricultural production. So now we have a pollinator mix that would support bees and butterflies and so on and so forth, that would in turn obviously help other plants. So want to make sure that what's being planted is actually fulfilling that aspect of it.
So how does that, what specifically are you looking for them, for me to contact them and?
I would think we need to get a letter from Genesee County Water and Soil Conservation or Genesee County Cooperative Extension, their agent saying that's a suitable pollinator for this area.
I would think that would be a good way to. Yep.
Anybody else think anything else? They're your people.
Again, looking into the decommissioning aspect, portion, comment 18. Again, because it was noted that decommissioning is kind of noted in a couple of different areas within your regulations. It's recommended the town have a third party review the decommissioning costs. It just helps to kind of give that extra buffer, just so that someone else is taking a look at it and give you guys some reassurance. All surety forms and financial forms obviously should be reviewed by the town attorney. It should be noted that the remediation should be deemed complete to the satisfaction of the town. So when you guys are satisfied that it has met all aspects of the remediation plan, it's stable and everything else, then it's deemed complete. So it's on you guys to say that it's closed out.
So the third party review of the decommissioning costs, the decommissioning plan that I will provide back to you will be PE stamped
Okay.
for the estimated cost.
Yes.
Do you review that, and does that meet that requirement of third-party decommission review, or does?
Is that for day one, or is that 5 years in one day? If you look at it, it says it's estimated upon 5-year updates. Is your question on day one, or is your question at day 5? Or day five?
I guess both.
Okay.
I mean, typically I would provide the cost estimate is stamped by a PE, so
And I think
that-
Justin would look at that and say, this is generally accepted in the industry. My question is though, in 5 years from now, when you come back with your updated plan, we're gonna have someone review it. Right now, you're paying our expenses. In year 5, who pays?
Those should all be costs that are borne by the applicant.
I would assume.
Yeah.
So is that,
You know-
then we would submit that and then the
I
town
know
would
in
give us
the-
an invoice to pay, like we do now?
I know in the wind reviews, they're, $3,500 every 5 years to review the decommissioning plan and engineering fees. That's usually how we've got that. So maybe in the decommissioning plan, you would put something, and I don't know, it might be an escalation clause too. The engineers don't get any cheaper.
But I'm just trying to think through so is the code enforcement officer the person that we're speaking to on that? To like logistically, in 5 years, my operations person is gonna reach out to the code enforcement officer and say, here is our updated plan, and then, the town clerk is gonna send us an invoice for the review of that, and then we pay the invoice. Is that what we're thinking?
I would think the center point would probably, your initial contact would be with but again, it's a special use permit. I think in 5 years, the town board would review the special use permit and review the decommissioning plan. Maybe 20.
But the permit doesn't get reviewed in every 5 years. We're just
But the
talking about.
decommissioning plan does. And again, they ultimately authorize the decommissioning plan. I don't know, again,
Yeah, I would think that everything, actually, before I state this, I should ask then, is the special use permit up for renewal every year, or is it just one and done?
I think it's a review. I'm sure special use permits, don't you guys go through them? You go through them annually?
I don't
For
think,
compliance.
does the code say, I did not see that it's reviewed I guess that's a question I would need to understand. Most of the towns, your special use permit is, for the life of the project. Yes, you can have decommissioning values or something that is reviewed periodically, but that's what I'm asking you for, is the instructions on what you want. But it wouldn't be reviewing my special use permit, because then that adds risk to the project, because I've built the project, it's operating, and then I have to go back to the town board for decommissioning costs. That's
Generally, the towns, in general terms, the town's special use permits are reviewed annually. I'm not sure that it says anything in the solar local law about annual review or periodic review. I think there might be some language, but I don't
Yeah, I have to,
recall it off the top of my head.
I have to look back
And I
at
need you to do
that
that,
one.
because
Normal process is to review to see that any conditions that were attached to the special use permit are being complied with. So that if there's some issue that you're not complying with one of the conditions, it can be brought to your attention and you can correct it.
I have projects that annually you provide, usually it's the code enforcement officers. Once we're operational, that's the person you're communicating with.
And I think our law says this: special use permits shall not be granted if substantially changes the characteristics of the neighborhood in which the subject property is located. The zoning enforcement officer, at least yearly, shall review the use of the property to determine compliance with any conditions which have been prescribed by the authorizing board in issuing the special use permit. So there's an
Right, so
annual
the
review.
zoning enforcement officer reviews and says, are we still operating in the conditions of the special use permit? But it's not going back to a board for approval.
It's going back, it's coming by way of the code enforcement officer to the town board, saying that he's reviewed the special use permit and it's in compliance with the terms of the special use permit.
Yeah, but I'm not hearing anything here that there's another set of approvals. Basically, you're in compliance with special use permit, it's time to close, and you continue to be, there's no issue. There's no additional approval, so it doesn't expire.
Right, that's what I'm trying to
Yeah,
get
no,
to.
the terms are, kind of written in stone. If you're not complying with those, that's the issue.
Right,
But if you're
yeah.
in compliance, then there's no issue. And the town has, we just have the ability to do a review, but it's not an approval.
And if we're not in compliance, then there's a process for communicating that and a process for cure.
Yes.
So, getting back to your question as far as that review of the decommissioning at the 5-year mark, by the way, the same process for the special use permits, I would think that they would go back to, everything would get routed through through code enforcement, building inspector, and then from there, he would then, give it to us to review, or whomever the town chooses for that third-party review. And those costs would then be probably billed back to you guys saying, okay, we've had such and such review it, we agree with it, there we go.
Right, right. So my instructions to my operating folks are, year 6, whenever anniversary date or whatever, year 6, you need to get them an updated, or you need to get them a statement of the decommissioning that either, yes, these values are still accurate, or no, there needs to be an increase, or, whatever. But year 6, you need to give them some documentation saying, we've looked at it and it's still accurate. And then from there, we've gotten it to the code enforcement officer. So we've done our part, and then he can do his, but our part is in compliance that we've given that back. And
That's how I'm reading it as such, yes.
Run this dog over, don't run it over again.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good. Yeah, I think my last point on there as far as the decommission goes, is that the decommissioning shall be in place the full life of the project, plus 18 months following site restoration to ensure that the site is fully stabilized. So that,
yeah, that's pretty common.
Okay, all right. Moving on, point number 19, is in regards to, my understanding is that there are times when the solar projects can be repowered, or, as I noted here, repowered or refurbished with some new equipment, new inverters, so on and so forth, to keep them going a little longer if they fall below a certain operating level or such. And my only comment to that one was that should this option be considered and added into the decommissioning plan, that everything should be reviewed and updated according to cover the new or extended lifespan. So and correct me if I'm wrong, but was the anticipated lifespan of this 20, 25, 30 years?
I have to look at the lease. Our leases typically are like 25-year term with either 2 or 3, 5 or 10-year extensions. So 25 to 35, I can look at the specific lease to see what it says. I don't remember exactly.
So I would say as long as that decommissioning plan mirrors what those aspects of it are. If the lifespan is 25 years plus 2 or 3 5-year renewal, those should be exactly.
Whatever our life of the project is.
Yes.
Plus 18 months.
Yes.
Do we have,
I think there's a copy of the lease in the documents.
Yeah, there was.
I just did not
I think it
remember
was.
the term.
Just a detail that was noted on the civil site plans on sheet 401. It notes on there the use of a water bar, and when I looked through the SWIP, the notes from the DEC was that either a water bar or a level spreader is to be used for controlling runoff and stormwater. But it's noted on the one sheet as being a water bar, but it's noted in the details as being a level spreader, so it's got to be one or the other.
Yeah, I think, we're gonna change that just to be the level spreader anyway.
Okay.
Speed regulations.
Okay.
what's a water bar?
That's it's the earth humps up slightly and it goes parallel to the contours, it changes the flow of sheet flow. So it goes shallow concentrated. So it spreads out the flow.
So instead of having it flow straight down, you basically got a bar, so it can,
Are we talking about a creek, or are we talking about just the general surface?
just general surface flow. It basically kind of bumps it up and diverts it away so that it can, direct it into another area.
Help me, and Mr. Torrey, does that water bar leave after the project? I could think probably plowing, that's gonna be a miserable thing.
Well, that's part of your decommissioning.
Okay.
Whatever your surface is, that's part of your decommissioning. But as Chris was saying, the new regulations, it would be, to be in compliance with the new regulations, it's level spreaders instead.
Okay. Say that again? Level spreaders?
Level spreader, it's another,
Similar to water.
there's a detail, there will be a detail on the civil site plan that includes the detail of how
Okay.
that design, whatever that stormwater measure design is.
Okay. And then, comment number 21, it's noted on sheet 503, for both 5 and 6, projects. It notes table length, other racking details as noted, but there's nothing that's included, that's noting what, what that table length is, which is just the full set of the solar panels. And it also notes that, it's also noted from the DEC within the SWIP that there should be a 1-inch gap between the panels horizontally to aid in stormwater runoff. So just want to make sure that that is carried over from what the DEC suggested into the plans, because it's not clear.
We spoke about that, and
Okay.
they will review that. And we have to, again, I need to look at the racking manufacturers' specifications for the table length. And those table lengths, I think, will range in this set of drawings, this level of drawings. I don't have exact, but I will have, table lengths for this type of racking would be from this, I don't know, 89 inches to, 150 inches. I don't know, but something, a range of what this would be.
Yeah, as long as those details are provided within the plans, that's really what we're kind of making sure is in there.
Understood.
So, number 22, we already talked about as far as the 2 separate projects, and then my last comment is in regards to the construction schedule. I know that there's one that's included within the SWIP. However, one of the things that we've kind of noted from other communities is the fact that a lot of times the landscaping and such is done at the end. And so it's one of those things where, you've got it all in, and maybe it takes you a year with stuff in order to put in all the panels. Well, in that period of time, there's no screening except for just the fence. So what we're suggesting is that obviously, you've got to take care of the stormwater and erosion control measures, clearing, grading, the access road, utilities. But then after that point in time, the fence and landscaping should go in at that point before the panels get installed, to at least give them a little bit of a head start for getting that screening in place now.
I saw that, I understood the note on the more detail on the construction schedule. And so that we did, and we uploaded to that box, and did that today.
Okay.
But as far as changing the timing of the fence and the landscaping, that's usually the last thing we do. For many different reasons. So I don't know that I certainly can't make a decision to change the fence and the landscaping to the beginning of the project. Because it will get damaged, or just it won't usually the landscaping is like the last, and it depends on the time of year that you finish. You know, if we finish in December, and we're not gonna plant the landscaping until, you know, April or whenever the first time to plant is,
Yeah.
so that it will take.
I mean, I do understand timing as far as the season goes. I have seen a couple of other facilities where there's one not too far away from me that they've already cleared the site and they have the fence up now and there's nothing inside of it. So they already have the fence up for security. And with the landscaping going outside of the fencing, there really wouldn't be any reason that they would get damaged if everything is happening inside the fence at that point in time. If you already got your trenching in, you've already got your utilities in and everything else, and now you're just putting in all the panels within it, I don't really see how you couldn't do the landscaping before you put in all that stuff on the inside.
Their tasking projects suggest, go ahead, Bill.
The updated schedule that they have uploaded calls for the installation of fencing and landscape screening by April 15th of 2026. And that's
Oh, so
the
they
notice
moved
to
it.
proceed. Yeah, so
Yeah.
they've got that in there as
All right,
one of the first items of operation.
I worked with the construction folks on that. I'll have to talk with them about it, because usually they're pretty non-negotiable. So I'll have to talk with them and see, but normally it's the last thing, and a lot of times it has to do with, because your fence is only 20 feet from your panels usually, and so your limit of disturbance might be further than that, and so, like, the stormwater measures have to protect that limit of disturbance, so I'll have to speak with the construction person. I can't make a decision or make a promise on that now. But I will look at that.
And that's all that I have.
Thank you. Can we just go back to the one, because you were talking about the, I guess, I think you call it table length for the solar panels.
Oh, right.
There is a typical panel and rack dimension detail on that drawing, C503, which, if I'm reading it right, shows the distance between I think it's the distance between the ground and the upper part of the rack is being 37 inches. And then the distance from there to the top of the tracker of the panel, because the thing tilts. So there's going to be times when it's down low, there's going to be times when it's up high. And it's showing, tough to read, but showing 175 3/4 inches, and it says 240 max. So if you add the 37 to those numbers, you get anywhere from 18 to 23 feet.
No,
Is that correct, or?
No, because so the top edge of the panel would be, you're not adding the two. The top edge of the panel would max at 24 or 240 max. So it'll range between 175 3/4 and 240. So that would be 12 feet. And then the ground clearance, so that bottom edge, the 34 1/4 minimum, that's saying that the bottom edge of the panel can't be any closer to the ground than that. So that accounts for the snow clearance and things like that. So the height of the top edge of the panel and the bottom edge of the panel, that's giving you the minimum clearance from the ground and the maximum height of the top edge of the panel.
Okay, so that would be 18 feet then, right? 18 to 20 feet. 240 inches max is 20 feet, I think. Right, you did my math.
What is I can go back, yes, I can go back and ask them that. What is the code maximum?
I'm
Is
not
there a
sure
code
there's-
maximum?
I'm not sure that there is a maximum. I'm just looking at it from the point of view of, you know, how, because when I looked at the simulations, in year one, it looked like the panels were kind of tall. As compared, obviously, they're gonna be taller than a fixed panel, because the fixed panel is laying on that permanent angle. The tractor's probably gonna move up further than that. Maybe not, I don't know. I'm just trying to get an idea of what the maximum height was of the panels.
I will I can get back to you on that. Because that would also depend on the racking manufacturer.
Right.
So I can ask them, you know, I'm asking them about the racking manufacturer.
Says maximum height 20 feet.
Okay, maximum height 20 feet, yeah. It is in the regulation. Okay. Here's probably why they have 240 max in there.
Can I ask a question about the fence? Is the
Yes.
fence going to go to the ground, or is there gonna be clearance from the bottom of the fence so that, you know, rabbits and turtles and frogs and everything else can go underneath the fence?
I guess, Chris, do you know if that's specified yet, or?
Yeah, there's a dimension. We've got it pretty close to the ground. It's 1.5 inch min, 2.5 inch max. By that fabric to the ground, it's pretty tight.
So it's designed currently to go to the ground then? It doesn't have a wildlife buffer or a wildlife gap?
I don't know what we do. Ron, do you know if we require a chain link fence, or just a fence?
I don't think we required that specific.
Okay.
I think what we've proposed is chain link.
Yeah, that's what it's showing. I just wondered, I've seen several solar installations with what they call farm fence, which is,
High tensile. High tensile.
yeah, but it's a bigger opening than chain link.
Oh, the American.
So you can kind of see through it more.
Drawing 502 is where the fence detail is.
Right.
Yeah.
And currently it's proposed as
Chain link.
chain link.
Yep.
It's a 7 foot high, it's not proposed with barbed wire on the top. The fence has to be compliant with the electrical code.
Oh, definitely.
So that has some specifications to it. But that's what we had proposed, was a 7 foot high chain link fence.
Okay.
And it does look like it says 1.5 inch minimum to 2.5 inch max for the clearance between the bottom.
Right, so it's
rail
going down to the bottom, it's going down to the ground, it's not leaving a gap.
So skinny Joe can handle it.
Skinny turtle. Just going back to the planning board, then, your solar site plan review, do you guys have any specific items that weren't delineated or addressed in the application and in the update today?
Well, I had a couple of things, I don't want to drag this out any longer, but I had spoken to Justin earlier about, for example, when we review the SWIP, they review the stormwater calculations, and they haven't finished that yet. They're in the process of that.
We got a date when that'll be done?
I'm hoping by next week after.
No problem.
I think most of the rest of my questions have already been answered. One thing that I was wondering, and this I think applies to both the planning board and the town board. Back in 2022, when this was sent to the Genesee County Planning Board, they recommended disapproval. That was at the time when the zoning board of appeals was being asked to act on variances, area variances, which subsequently were approved. to some extent. So is that county recommendation still valid? Which would mean that both the town board and the planning board would have to vote a majority plus one to override that?
And they did, they overrode.
Pardon?
They did override it.
No, we're saying with regards to this project at this point,
Mhm.
the special use permit needs to be issued with a supermajority, and the site plan needs to be issued with a supermajority.
Yeah. that's-
Correct.
Is
That's
that,
my
that's,
question.
that, so the county recommendation for the variances
County
applies to
recommendation for the
this
project.
also?
Yep.
So this doesn't go back to the county?
So you're saying it does go back to the county?
No, that's, I think you're saying no.
I don't think it would
The
be.
county reviewed it and then they had their recommendation, which was disapproval, and then the board overrode that disapproval.
Right, but does that supermajority approval then still apply to the site plan approval and the special use approval? Or because it already reached the supermajority approval of the variances, does that meet that requirement?
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah. I don't know.
We have to consider, we have to act on the same recommendation of the county as the zoning board did, and the town board will have to do the same. Or does it go back to the county for another review? That's I was just questioning.
I guess it would depend on the referral to the county, what was being referred to them. Was it just the variance that was noted within it, or did it include variance, site plan, and special use permit? So
Their entire site plan was submitted to the county.
I mean, my understanding is the supermajority only applies to whether or not the county, the decision of the county. So simply because the county disapproved a project doesn't mean the voting then changes, except as to whether or not how they're going to approach the county approval. So if the county disapproves it, you have to make a decision about, well, I'm not going to, I shouldn't step on Dave's toes here, because this is really a decision for,
I'm listening to you, I keep talking.
So my understanding from the process is that you refer it to the county does disapproval, the only way to move forward with it is by a vote of a supermajority, which was done. So,
Well, that with regards to the variances were approved by a supermajority. My understanding is the balance of the project also needs to be approved by a supermajority.
I see what you're saying, okay.
The
Okay.
notice
Yep.
of final action
We
by
can
the
figure it out.
county, the notice of final action by the county included special use permit, site plan review, and area variances.
Mhm.
So, yeah,
Sorry,
that's
can you read that again?
It included the special use permit, site plan review, and area variances.
Mhm.
Again, I think Genesee County is a stickler on when you refer, that you refer everything. And, we did. So we're stuck with that at this point, so.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that so we knew ahead of time what we were looking at.
Anything else? The planning board needs.
Any planning board comments, questions?
So now we'll go into the town board, okay? Your requirements, again, you've gone through the site plan checklist. We've got the 239L referral back. We still need to take action on seeking the lead agency. And I think, depending on how you're feeling about this, there's some SWIP issues, but I would think when we schedule our public hearing, that stuff needs to be in. I think you probably want to make sure we schedule at such a time that you're going to have all this documentation ready for us.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, I don't know the fire department response, so I can't say that.
I don't think we're looking to do, I would think it would be a month, 45 days before we schedule this. Just to give you enough time to cover your bases. Is that reasonable?
Right, yeah, that's what I'm thinking is.
Is that reasonable to you guys? It's not the hottest night of the summer yet. We'll come back in 45 days to make sure we have. Again, we've got to continue to look at the decommissioning plan. You've got the Camoin study. Are there any questions, any more questions about that? It's the economic impact study. It says what the economic impact of this project will be to the town of Stafford.
Yeah, unfortunately, there wasn't anything local that they could go by. It was all central New York, northern New York. We're different here, but I understand how they had to do it.
Okay.
We communicated with Camoin and did communicate, like she asked us about spending in Genesee County and spending in the town. So that was information that we had communicated to Camoin. So
that being said, I mean, I think you're in a position that you could, make your declare yourself a lead agent, and then if you want to look for 45 days out to schedule a public hearing. How's my calendar? We talking July then? 45 days in June? And again, it'd probably be, I got another question for you though, before I go there. So we got 5 and we got 6. Are we gonna do them together, or are we gonna do 2 public hearings? For, again, I would assume that the planning board and the town board will conduct their public hearing simultaneously, or a joint public hearing. My next question is do you do simultaneously 5 and 6, or do you do public hearing on 5 and then later a public hearing on 6? That's your fault, Justin, because I hadn't thought about it prior to that, but I'm just trying to keep everything.
usually, my experience is that you do them at the same time. You may have 2 different resolutions, track 2 different resolutions for them, but they're considered at the same public hearing time because.
Again, you brought 2 separate applications. I think it's within this board's authority if you wanted to have 2 public hearings instead of just 1, or if you just want to have 1 public hearing and, get this over with.
One for each.
One for each, but on separate nights, or on the same
No,
night?
same night, one for each.
Okay.
Yeah.
One starts at 7, the other starts at 7:30,
Or,
or 7 and 7:15.
So when would we actually do the seeker?
We could do it tonight.
Tonight?
Just declare yourself lead agent, and
There's a resolution.
yeah.
No, I know that, but then there's the
Okay, all your is the
actual failure mode analysis.
You haven't made the determination of significance yet.
All right.
Again, because, one of the tenets of seeker is you get the public's input. So again, this isn't a public hearing tonight. These poor folks have been watching us work, not giving us their comments. The next time we're here, we'll be able to hear their concerns and their interests, not just Justin's.
Now, for the town board, I have a question. We were talking about using the code enforcement officer as the interface, which is fine, but also this is brand new technology. So we would be looking for Clark Patterson to be quite involved in coming up with what the inspection point should be. Because, like any process, it's from your failure mode analysis that you determine what your controls are. So we'll be looking for that.
We can help out with that.
Because again, we are too small to have an engineering department.
Most communities are in the same boat.
Yeah. I agree.
"45 days from today is July 19th, so we're looking end of July timing on
I'm not coming in on a Saturday.
that. Oh, sorry. Come on, Dave.
When it's summertime.
23rd is a Wednesday, 24th is a Thursday,
Thursdays are coordinated.
court, so 23rd.
Planning board meeting.
What about the 14th?
That's not board meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
15th?
I think later is better than sooner because they may have a hiccup, you know, not have all the information ready.
30th of July,
30th?
that's a Wednesday.
Yeah.
That works. It's a good day. Does that work?
30th works for me.
Yep.
I might not be here.
I think you better be here.
Yeah, I've got a possible presentation out in town of Clarence, but
Can you get someone here for us?
I could probably get some for it, yeah. I mean, if that's what works best for the
Do you want to look
majority.
at another day, just so Justin's schedule is
What about Monday?
And 28th?
28?
I can do
I can do it.
Okay.
Oh, you don't need me. I can't do 28.
So July 28th?
You never get everybody on the same page.
You don't need,
that.
you don't need everybody.
You never get everybody on the same page this time of year.
No. Will you get Jimmy in July?
Get that for it.
Is it wheat? Will that be his wheat season? No.
Better not be. Might be oats or rye.
Yeah.
There's a lot of votes out
If it's after 7, you won't be combined anyways, do what we said.
Too wet. Too damp. Okay, July 28th, 7 PM. Joint public hearing, 5 and 6. 5 is at 7. Was 7 or 7:30? Just looking to you, Barb.
7?
7 works better because it's 9:30.
She lives across the street.
7 PM. Can we do 7 PM for 5 and 7:30 for 6?
Yeah.
They can send a rep over.
Did you say 7:30?
Do you want to do them separately or you want to do them simultaneously? I know there's-
No, we're gonna do them two different public hearings.
Same night.
Just
Same night.
Right.
Stagger by half an hour.
Close it, open 6,
Yes.
close it.
And
Okay.
you want a presentation that
Yes.
night? And using easel, that's the technology that you want us to.
I think they've also got it.
I'm working on it.
They have a projector too. No?
Jump in and have it.
No, the projector is,
That's fine.
I'm looking at it, I'm looking at it today.
I mean, the problem with your easels are, I mean, just from a public's perspective, we have them in front of us and we can't read the numbers. Somehow, what you're presenting, the numbers need to be more visible for people, just so you're communicating. I'm not being critical, I'm just, I know how hard it, I know me looking at it, and I'm having problems with my vision, I can't see things. You need, somehow, you need maps for old people.
No, I get it. Are the maps that you have only the 11 by 17, or are you looking at the 24 by 36?
That's 24, 36 there.
I'm not looking at 24 by 36, I was doing 11 by 17.
Right, because I also struggle with the 11 by 17, so I can.
I guess I'm
provide
just-
plans of the 24 by 36. That's
We can make
what
this
this
work,
is.
right?
This is 24 by 36.
And if not, can't we just take that one down and set it up?
I'm working on.
You might want to talk to our clerk about, just so your presentation's
I will call.
visually pleasing.
Dave, we should be able to get this
Yeah, I think I can
working
hook it up.
Thank you.
somehow.
I think we also can.
The other matter is, I think you do have the resolution before you.
Yes.
I don't know if you want to read it, but it does basically set forth that you're declaring yourself the lead agent. And we'll give notice, we've given notice to all the other agencies, no one's objected to it. You're in a position now to declare your lead agency, and then you'll have time to make the determination of significance after your public hearing on July 3rd.
Should you read it? Should Bob read that?
And that, you just, you're going to declare it to the lead agent.
Should read it.
Resolution of the town board of the town of Stafford to declare itself lead agency regarding Genesee CDG 5 and Genesee CDG 6 solar energy systems. Adopted June 4th, 2025. Whereas the town board of the town of Stafford met at a regular board meeting at the town hall located at 8903 Route 237, Stafford, New York, on the 4th day of June 2025, commencing at 7:30 p.m., at which time and place the following members were present. Jimmy Deason's the only one that was. Yeah. Whereas all board members having due notice of said meeting, and that pursuant to Article 7, Section 104 of the Public Officers Law, said meeting was open to the general public and due and proper notice of the time and place thereof was given as required by law, and whereas the town board of the town of Stafford believing it was the most appropriate candidate to seek lead agency status under state environmental quality review seeker law in regard to the development, construction, and operation of 2 community solar energy facilities, New York CDG Genesee 5 LLC and NYCDG Genesee 6 LLC, proposed to be located in the town of Stafford at 8244 Town Line Road, each a project and collectively the projects declared in intent to seek lead agency on September 9th, 2024. And whereas pursuant to and in accordance with the provision of section 617.6, initial review of actions and establishing lead agency, parenthesis, of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Regulations, of the 6 NYCRR Part 617. The town board of the town of Stafford determined that the projects were a type 1 action and therefore required a coordinated review process with interested and involved agencies. And whereas the town board of the town of Stafford authorized that that notice of its intent to seek lead agency be sent to the following agencies on September 9th, 2024, pursuant to section 617.6 of the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, and sent such notices on October 2nd, 2024.
Those were all sent out. They've all been sent to us.
Will we read it all? One, Genesee County Agricultural and Farmland Protection Board. 2, Genesee County Highway Department. 3, Genesee County Planning Board. 4, Genesee County Soil and Water Conservation. 5, New York State Department of Agricultural Markets. 6, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. 7, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, Region 8. 8, New York State Department of Transportation. 9, New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. 10, New York State Office of Renewable Energy Siting. 11, New York State Thruway Authority. 12, Town of Batavia. 13, Town of Byron. 14, Town of Stafford Planning Board. 15, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Buffalo District. And whereas, having sent such notice to the above involved and interested agencies, and after having waited 30 days as prescribed by 6 NYCRR Part 617.6 parenthesis B, and received no objection from those agencies, and whereas the town board received written permission from the developer of the projects on January 2nd, 2025, attached hereto as Schedule A, in which they agreed that the town board shall be granted more time than allotted by 6 NYCRR Part 617.6B 3 2 to make its state environmental quality review determination, so that the town board may gather the information required by Stafford local law and all other necessary information, and whereas an acknowledgement of the above, the town board of the town of Stafford shall declare itself lead agency in regard to the development, construction, and operation of the projects. And now, we need a motion here.
So moved. Second.
Councilman Pacer, second by Councilman Young. Be it resolved that the town board of the town of Stafford hereby declares itself lead agency under the State Environmental Quality Review Act regarding the potential environmental impacts of the development, construction, and operation of 2 community solar energy facilities. New York CDG Genesee 5 LLC and New York CDG Genesee 6 LLC. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show that the ayes were unanimous and there were no noes. Quorum present? Yes. And it would be dated today's date. Schedule A, note, attach agreement here, delete this note upon attachment.
Obviously, that, yeah.
Well, so, good. Do we have to, we gotta do the other resolution?
Town of Stafford resolution authorizing a public hearing regarding the issuance of a special use permit for Genesee CDG 6 and Genesee CDG 6 solar projects adopted June 4th, 2025. Whereas the town board of the town of Stafford met at a regular board meeting at the town hall of the town of Stafford, located at 8903 Route 237, Stafford, New York, on the 4th day of June 2025, commencing at 7:30 p.m. at which time and place the following members were present. Supervisor Robert Clement, Councilmember Ron Panic, Councilmember Terry Young, Councilmember James Deason was absent, Councilmember Robert Basic, and absent was James Deason. Whereas all town board members having due notice of said meeting, and that pursuant to section 104 of the Public Officers Law, Public Meetings Law, said meeting was open to the general public and due and proper notice of the time and place thereof was given as required by law. And whereas the town board of the town of Stafford received applications for a special use permit for Genesee CDG 5 and Genesee CDG 6 solar projects, the projects hereinafter on December 7th, 2023. And whereas the developer has been working with both planning board and town board in order to meet the requirements for site plan review, as well as the issuance of a special use permit as set out in section 143, 7B of the town code and the town of Stafford, and whereas the town board of the town of Stafford finds it in the best interest of the town to hold a public hearing to consider the issuance of a special use permit to the projects. Motion to do this,
So moved. Second.
Pacer, Young. Resolved that the town board of the town of Stafford will hold a public hearing to consider the issuance of a special use permit to the projects on the, what day we're gonna do this?
It was July 28th, 7 p.m.
Okay, on the 28th day of July, 2025, 7:35 p.m., at which time all interested parties and citizens for or against the issuance of such special use permit shall be heard. And be it further resolved by the town board of the town of Stafford that the town clerk is hereby directed to place the notice of public hearing on the town notice board, to post the notice on the town website, and to publish the notice of public hearing in the town of Stafford's official newspaper. All in favor say, a favor of this, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? There were no nays. Quorum present, yes. Dated June 4th, 2025. Barbara Randy, clerk, town staff.
So moved.
Genesee, all good?